welcome to the Forward Moves podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things business, branding, systems, and operation for the fitness world. We are really excited to bring you today's podcast. We have a super special guest on it today, our bookkeeper, Sophie.
Good morning. Hi. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you. And obviously, Kira, our co-host, is here.
As always, I'm just going to be here in the background a little bit, I think. I'm just going to be enjoying the chats.
So today's episode is quite highly requested. I think finances and managing finances in business is something that a lot of business owners are avoidant about.
Always.
Always.
They like to stick their head in the sand. Before I kick things off, I will say that all advice today is general in nature. So it's not specific to anyone or anyone's business. For detailed advice, go and see an accountant or financial advisor.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is why
Everyone's
we'll
business
end
is different.
Yeah.
So before we get into the advice, we have done a bit of a Q&A round with our customers and asked some questions that are pretty common across the board. We actually want to touch on the story of how we met Soph and our journey together because it's been a pretty long journey.
Wow, now.
Yeah, I
Isn't it?
think
Yeah.
it was the very start of my business.
Yes. Yeah, you've had a few
So going
evolutions.
all
since
the way
then.
back.
How
All the
long
way
has
back.
it been?
3 and a bit?
Was I still a sole trader?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's longer than you.
Because you changed Soul Trader right when I was coming on board. Like it was just before that.
Yeah.
I think you became one to take people on.
Just
So I think it was just
before.
before I came on board.
So Soph's started before you.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Well,
And
just chipping away in the background.
Keeping everything together.
Where I can.
Like many other business owners, I was very stressed with finances at the start. My finances were a huge mess, and Sophie kind of saves the day. We call her our lifesaver to everyone that asks, because she really does save the day throughout my journey in the first couple of years. I knew nothing, and I got to send Sophie emails and
Ask
get all the
questions
breakdowns.
and
Yeah.
have coffee and more coffee and cry. And
Yeah, lots of tears.
Oh, yeah. I think
Um,
some of your most stressful days was it was always something about like finance business, like the back end, like it was like the nitty gritty details. Like
cash flow,
Do you
Yeah.
remember when we paid the staff wrong
oh,
and we had to do all the
think
back
it's
pays?
yeah, that was coming. I came into someone else had been helping you, and
Yeah, I got locked out of my zero.
yeah, you got locked out of your zero. Hexted hadn't been allocated in payroll and for certain staff members, and annual leave was all accumulating.
I was gonna say I don't remember any of this. This
Yeah,
is before
way,
me.
way back.
So
in the
we'll-
dark ages.
We'll take it back. So I think one of the most common mistakes a lot of business owners make is I used someone that someone told me to use and I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Taxman came after me like they do. And luckily it happened for us super early
Yeah.
because it didn't affect the business as such. But nothing was set up correctly and we had to do like back pays and lots of tax and
Play catch up on a few
yeah. So
yeah, one of the big things is small business owners leaving all their trust with their accountant or their advisor or whoever they're having do their tax if they've got someone. Otherwise, they're just ignoring it and not knowing the basics of your business. So your cash flow, how to read a profit and loss report, understanding your debtors, payroll, if you've got staff, all of those things. That's when big messes or small messes become big messes. So
Yeah.
you need to know,
That's
just
so
even if
hard.
it's just the basics.
Yeah.
So when you log in and you can look, you can go, okay, yeah, that makes sense, as opposed to, I don't know, I don't care, I'm not looking at it.
Yeah.
That-
That do you know, like whenever somebody said to me like, oh, do you want to own your own business? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I'm like, no, I just want to be an employee because that I don't want to
Yeah.
ever have
That-
to deal with.
And that's where I come in, because the back end of business is as much work as the business itself.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time everyone started their business as either like a side hustle or a small hobby. That's their focus. They know what they want
Yeah.
to do. But in order for that to work, you need to make sure the back end is working as well. So ignoring the back end makes the front end fall apart.
Absolutely. And I think for a couple of our customers, talking about the back end might confuse them because they think that's systems. But
Yeah.
let's actually dive into what you do for businesses, and we can use our business
Sure.
as an
Yeah,
example.
for sure.
And how you help
What
business owners.
it is that I do, all
What
the
do you
things I
do?
do.
Yeah. There's a lot of confusion around bookkeepers versus business accountants.
Yeah, okay. So accountants are high-end bookkeeping. They do all your tax advising, financial planning, all of those side of things. Bookkeepers will generally just do the day-to-day, so reconciling accounts, doing payroll, those kind of things. Some are BAS agents as well. What I do, in addition to the bookkeeping side of things, I'm also a management consultant. So I will advise on a little bit of HR, a little bit of marketing, just the things you need to do to keep the business moving, avoid roadblocks in cash flow, or how to alleviate and plan for things. Also, if you've got ideas, I can flesh them out and talk about those and see if they're plausible or not, as opposed to making it up.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull back a couple things there because I know we're going to get quite a few questions. With bookkeeping, what's a BAS agent?
Okay, a BAS agent is someone who is registered with the ATO to submit your BAS on your behalf.
Yep.
So I'm not a BAS agent because I just don't want to have that responsibility.
What is a BAS?
BAS is a business activity statement. So once you are a company or you're registered for GST, you'll have a quarterly payment or a report that you have to send to the ATO of how much money you've made, how much GST you've collected, how much you've paid, any stuff, pay as you go withholding amounts, and then that payment gets reported to the ATO and then you make a payment. So that's BAS, business activity statement. If you are a sole trader, there's a payment called an IAS or an installment activity statement.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, installment activity statement. All the acronyms.
Yeah, there's
which
so many.
is a calculation by the ATO of a quarterly payment based on your last year's income. So just to try and prepay your tax. So when you get to the end of the year, you don't just have this dirty big tax bill that you've then got to
Like
cry
shocked
over.
by the end of
Yeah.
it.
'Cause
Yeah.
they do fine you. And I think I'm going to take it back to the very start of setting up a business so we can go through the journey together. The ATO find out everything, basically.
Yeah.
They will find out everything. So before we get back to the beginning, I really want to touch on the fact that finding a good bookkeeper, I think is completely necessary because, as you said, like when it comes to HR and employees, you've been a saving grace. You're like,
Yeah.
you need to do
That's
this, you
the
need to do this.
management consulting side of my services, as opposed to bookkeeping. Some bookkeeping, they won't dabble in that, or they won't have information or training and knowledge on that. But yeah, that's what I mean. Small business is a minefield and there's so many hats you have to wear. So having sort of an all-round consultant to help.
Yeah,
That'd be very helpful.
And a lot of people are really excited to scale by hiring, and you don't know what you're actually getting into when you get into that side. So we'll come back straight to the very start and basically talk about setting up businesses with finances, because a lot of our customers are going to be ranged between using spreadsheets to having systems and platforms. So as a sole trader going into the industry and starting up a side hustle or hobby, what are your recommendations of that journey?
Absolute essentials are having a spreadsheet to track money coming in and money going out. Absolute, not negotiable. You've got to have that, especially as a sole trader. You don't need to dive straight into accounting software. That is an overhead a lot of people don't have the money for in the beginning. So spreadsheet 101, I ran a spreadsheet for 2 years just because I refused to pay for Xero.
Yeah.
And then I got sick of making invoices and doing everything manually. And whilst you're doing everything manually, that's when you really get to see what's happening in your business. So how much money is coming in? How much money is going out? Are you making money? Is this worthwhile? Do we take it to the next step? The other thing is to have at least 2 bank accounts.
So we'll get into that. Can
well.
you use a personal bank account when you set up a business?
Please don't.
Yeah. So
Just please don't.
I think there's a bit of confusion between sole trader and personal. So your personal bank is your personal money, and your sole trader business should still be treated as a business account.
Separate account for that. You can put money into that account to help fund the business and then take money out of that account. But in terms of your day-to-day life, that needs to be kept separate from the business.
Is there a reason why you recommend separating it?
just for tax purposes and just cash flow and planning, because it's like, okay, you might really enjoy Uber Eats or something, and that's a personal expense. That's not a work expense.
I was like, I feel like Ash will resonate with that one. I was like, I'm actually pretty good.
Separating personal and work is a must.
Yeah.
Just so you can actually see.
I feel like that even just like not doing that myself, but like having the two separate ones, like it would just be so much cleaner. Like, you know, everything here is business. Everything here is personal.
Has everyone paid me? How much money am I making?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time when you first start out, you might still have a job. Like you might be working part-time.
Yeah.
So that income goes into your personal account. You don't want to confuse that with money in the business, because the business isn't earning that. So
even just tracking like people that are supposed to be paying you invoices and payments and all that. Like you don't want that being mixed in with like the shopping that you're doing at your coal shop.
Realizing that your card's been skimmed or something.
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of the time people don't look at their accounts, and I'm like, when were you in Canada? I wasn't. And I'm like, well, someone's
just a quick
using
little
your
trip.
card. Just to be across what's happening in your accounts. The other one is a tax savings account. So just putting money aside for tax.
So you would recommend having 2 business accounts side by side?
Yeah.
I remember something that you said to me when we first started, and it was, no matter how much money you're making, always pay yourself a wage, like quote unquote a wage.
Yeah.
And put
allocate an
a
amount.
consistent amount of money away. Why is that?
More so for you to know how much you need to live off.
Yep.
If you do plan on making this a full-time gig. So you were in the thick of it then.
Yeah.
You weren't a company, so you weren't doing payroll. I'll get to that later too, because that's a thing that comes with being a company. It's part of your expenses and your overheads. You need to be able to afford to live. I see a lot of people absolutely draining their business of cash, and then they can't afford their subscriptions, they can't afford membership fees. So giving yourself a consistent amount allows you to plan your cash flow around, okay, I need to achieve X sales this month because I'm going to pay myself this much. I know that. Then I've got these bills, and then whatever's left, you can also, that's your profit as a sole trader, but it's just easier to have a more consistent cash flow idea as opposed to just taking a lump sum every 3 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Helps plan for growth.
Basically, if you're, making 500 a week and you take 200 out, make sure it's consistent every week that comes out for you.
Yeah.
And then have the rest of your money in there to pay your bills.
And then go get a part-time job, because you can't live off $200 a week.
And honestly, it's so true, because the money that when you came on board and the money that I saved being a sole trader is what got my company over the line in that first year, because we budgeted so much.
And planning for it. And then things like my expenses became a consistent expense to the business. And yes, it can be a little bit daunting in the beginning, like, oh, do I have to pay them? The way my business is structured is I'm on a sliding scale. So if you want me a few hours every day, I'm there, you pay for it. Or you can talk to me once every 3 months. So it's as you can afford, because a lot of the time you don't have that extra money in the early days. But having a good system for growth too.
I definitely think if you can't afford a bookkeeper consistently, just a touch point. Just check in once a month, check in once every 2 months, just because the knowledge that I've gotten from you.
Ask the questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And you can ask me the same question 400 times. I'm pretty sure you have.
I've asked you some pretty bad questions.
Well, and it's something that you don't like, because as a business owner, you're not doing the finance things every day. And there might be something like, for example, when you get into real big land, payroll tax might be monthly or annual, or workers' comp insurance, like declaring your wages. That's once a year. Like there's things you don't do all the time, and you go, wait, how do I do that again? Where do I find that report? And it's like, oh yeah, here. You're like, oh.
I was like me the other day when we did payroll late, and I was like, Sophie's not responding. I don't know what to do. What do I do?
Like, I've been with you in just a moment.
I don't know how to process it myself.
Well, and the beautiful thing with Xero is as long as you hadn't filed it through STP, then you were okay. We can rejig things. But the other thing, in terms of being a sole trader, the apps like Henry are great in terms of letting you see how much money's coming in, having your tax automatically put aside so that you don't have to think about it. If you're not ready for something like Henry, you can just automatically put, say, 5% of your income into just a savings account. So it's just sitting there. Just
like I guess you could set it up manually if you're not ready to like pay for someone's like direct debits and
Yeah.
stuff like that is something that you could do before going to like an app. Is that what you mean? Like to transfer like that into that account. And
It takes a lot of discipline, but I definitely like we're in sole trader land at the moment, setting up your business, getting all that sorted. I definitely recommend that if you do have that little bit of income, pay for a subscription, because I was actually laughing before and you were like, I was on a spreadsheet. This is so off topic, but remember when I was on Xero and I was reconciling my receipts through the spreadsheet and you're like, Ash, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I definitely recommend putting it in the budget because it really does help a lot.
It's
so
one of the first business investments.
Yeah.
Like definitely like Xero. That's my favorite. Everyone can use it. I do Xero training because I like all of my people to know what's happening in their business, how to do their own bookkeeping.
But even setting up Xero, don't do it alone. Get your accountant and bookkeeper to set it up properly, walk you through it, and then you can
and customize it to suit you and your business, because everyone does everything differently too.
Yeah, and like that's such a big thing for us. So it's like teaching people how to use what they've got set up is so important. Like,
and getting the most from it too.
Yeah, like it would kill me having things set up and then you're like, I don't know how to use this and I need that person. Like, what if you don't have that person? Like, you need to know.
And honestly, having competency across your finances is
your
biggest tool. You need to be able to do it.
You can't be in business, or you can't succeed in business if you don't know what's going on.
And it's honestly finances in fitness terms. If you don't track your macros or your calories, how do you know what kind of progress you're making? That's what numbers and data is to a business. So, so coming into, being a sole trader, setting up your accounts, using a spreadsheet, tracking your finances in and out, and then you get a little bit more money, you can invest in Xero. You get a bookkeeper to set it up for you. Something that I think a lot of people don't realize is that Xero connects to your bank feed. So you have to connect your Stripe into your Xero, your NAB, whatever it might be. And then the ATO actually has access to your Xero and your Stripe.
If you connect it.
Can you not connect it? Like, is it illegal not?
You're connected because you have payroll. So there's requirements in terms of reporting on single touch payroll and lodging your BAS. So when you turn into a company and you want to do your BAS, you can do it direct from Xero. So it's literally just click buttons. Xero extracts all the data you need, just double check everything, and then you can report directly to there. The ATO, so it goes from Xero to the ATO. The ATO can't get into your Xero file to have a look. It's just a one-way process there, unless you invite them for an audit.
Right. But like, you can't hide anything from them.
No,
basically.
well, the bank has to report your interest income, all of those things. Like everyone is reporting everything to the ATO now. That's everyone's requirements. So, I mean, you can ignore it, but it will catch up with you.
We get a lot of questions around the cash versus FPOS debate. So, for example, face-to-face trainers, I want to get paid cash because I want that flow. I always, because I can't give advice at all, I'm always like, if you do that, you can't prove your profit. Like, it's not able to be proven. What's your stance?
Like, cash is king in the small business realm. And I know the government is trying to get rid of cash, but that's fine. Really, if you want to grow your business and you want to get somewhere with this and have it be successful and in the future go for a mortgage or a home loan or a credit card, you need to prove your income.
That's the biggest one. You're putting yourself back with loans.
You're making your profits appear less and then less profitable business, less income for you. And you're really like kicking yourself in the future. Like think about future you.
Yeah. So then you've got yourself set up through, everyone should have Stripe set up, I reckon, because Stripe is like that
it's a good payment
unicorn payment platform that plugs into everything. So we can pull that apart in another episode. So that's a whole episode on its own. But so they're all connected. Say they're on Xero, they run through everything. I think another thing that our clients get confused with is, how do you know if you're profiting in a sole trader business? Because isn't all your income your income?
Yeah.
So how
That's where the spreadsheet comes in.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, or your profit and loss or your P&L report when you're in zero. So that will tell you your income, your operating expenses. So maybe you are paying like a contractor PT to take some of your classes, or you're renting a space, all those kind of work-related overheads, subscriptions, software, insurances, bank fees.
Yeah.
If you've got a vehicle, if you're buying equipment, then your bottom line from there. So we've got our revenue, which is all the money coming into the business.
Yep.
All the expenses get deducted, and then at the bottom is your profit.
Yeah.
A lot of people get distracted with the revenue figure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a big hype on social media, like
Yep.
6
Yeah.
figures a month, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can do that, but the overheads associated with making that work leaves you with little to no profit.
That
So,
was a big thing that
Yeah.
I went through too. Like, you've experienced it with me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm making so much money. And it's like, you're paying out so much money.
yeah.
We spoke about
Yeah.
top dollar, bottom dollar
Yeah.
in
Yes.
one of our other episodes
Yeah.
as well already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I learned about that on that episode.
Yeah.
And making, like, comparing yourself to what everyone else is showing on social media, don't fall into
Yeah.
that trap, because
Yeah.
I know people who are absolutely kicking ass and they don't even have social media. And then other people who make out they're doing really well and they're not.
And honestly, like, put it in perspective. If you're making 100 grand a year with 10K overheads,
Yeah.
compared to someone making 200K with 100K overheads, you're doing better. You've
Yeah.
got more money to spend because the
Yeah.
tax is less. So I think also there's a piece around profit too. The more profit you have, the more tax you pay. So
and I mean, you got to think of it also as paying tax as a privilege. That means you're making money.
yeah.
Yeah, because if you're not making money, you're not paying tax.
I always
So-
get quite angry with this debate because I know that tax is frustrating, but we live in such an incredible country and we have free healthcare and
Yeah.
it's just the price that you pay. But I know it's a lot.
Yeah, it hurt. It always hurts.
Yeah.
because you work so hard to get that money.
Yeah.
yeah.
And a hot tip, the Australian tax ATO, I can never remember the bloody name.
Tax
We are
office.
the most complex, one of the most complex tax systems
Oh.
in the world.
Probably
And the most complex with most things.
Nothing straightforward here. Haven't we learned that?
So when it comes to, we're still in sole trader land,
Yeah.
by the way. When it comes to tax, there are different kinds of tax in business. So
Always different kinds
income
of tax.
tax. So let's talk about GST because this is a big fear
Yeah.
with our customers. So what's the
Massive.
threshold?
$75,000 in sales. So
Yeah.
not net profit, gross sales. So when
Revenue.
you make revenue,
Yep.
when you make $75,000 in revenue or gross sales in one financial year, you're required to register for GST.
And can you still be a sole trader?
Yeah, totally. Once you register for GST, you're then required to submit quarterly BAS or business activity statements.
Mhm.
So the fear around GST is everyone's like, oh, I've got to pay, like, I have to charge extra, but I also have to pay extra. So best way to think about how GST works in the most basic form is you collect GST on your sales, once you've hit that threshold. You pay GST when you make a purchase, like buy something for $1, it's $1.10. There's
Mhm.
10 cents spent of GST. Whatever's left is what gets paid to the ATO. Plus pay as you go withholding if you've got staff.
So with GST, it's 10%, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for example, if you have a coaching program and it's $90 a week, it would once
go
you're
to
registered for
$99.
GST, you can bring it up to
$99.
$99.
Yeah. Including GST. Yeah.
And
yeah.
then that $9 from that 90 would be part of your GST payment.
Yes.
Yes.
Less any GST you spend.
Yeah.
And
okay.
that's why it's important to spend money
Yeah.
in business
Yeah.
to bring that payment
Right.
down.
Okay.
So
So-
that's where, like, your subscriptions, fuel for the
Yeah.
car,
Right. So
like-
even though you're paying GST, but like any
You're
purchases that you
collecting
make,
it.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
collecting it, but then you're also using the GST when you make
Yes.
purchases.
Yeah. So it's like
Right.
a separate little kitty. Think of it like a
Okay.
separate bowl. And
That does make it sound less scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it is so good to keep your personal from your business. Like, have that separate business account with a bank card or something.
It's like an economy thing. It's forcing people to spend.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like circular economy in a
Yeah.
way. And then whatever's kind of left over. Like, if you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales and collecting all that GST, but you're not spending any money, you're paying that 10%.
And you would have to pay all of it. Yeah. If
but
you're not
everyone's,
spending.
especially in the first sort of 3 years of business, that's like the hard slog where there are all the overheads, like the website design, the branding, getting set up, finding clients, advertising, all insurances, finding your feet. So you're more than likely not going to make a profit unless you're doing something amazing.
Honestly, it is really hard. And I think as well, Gemma is my accountant, and Gemma and Sophie work very closely together. They're the dream team. We refer them to everyone in our business with this program. When it comes tax time, she's like, spend money. Start spending some money. Ask the girls if they need equipment.
You've earned. Yeah. So work-related expenses, not just like
don't
you're
just
buying
go.
jet skis.
Don't go to Mecca, get a whole new makeup kit.
No.
Unless you're a makeup artist.
So like maybe laptops or phones or computers, equipment for work, like deductible expenses, just to help bring your tax payable down. That's where that comes in, and that may not always be the case.
So you've got your GST, which you pay on a quarterly basis, or it's your 4 quarters. So that's your extra 10%, and then you also have tax,
income tax. So that's your personal tax.
Right.
So as a sole trader, you'll have your all your income is yours in that nutshell, and then you'll be taxed on the profit in that business.
And
then the GST part of that. But the other thing too is use an accountant for your tax. Don't try and do it yourself. Just to make sure you're getting the correct information from your financial reports.
Yeah.
Don't rush off on July 1 and do your tax because it takes about 2 weeks for the ATO to get itself kind of set up, ready. Everyone has to report things to the ATO, so that gives time for that information to come through, and then you're less likely to get like an amendment.
I remember I did that, and it took 4 months for me to get it back because it was too fast and got stuck.
It happens.
And we could go down the tax rabbit hole, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
So we are going to pull apart a P&L. Honestly, if we probably won't in this episode, but we might get Soph back to go over it.
I kind of need like a visual to show everyone.
It's like that. Have you guys seen that meme with the red strings? And it's like so being a sole trader, I feel like because tell me if I'm wrong, but sole trader tax is the same as employee tax. So like the thresholds are kind of the same.
This is not my realm.
Okay.
I don't do tax.
I'm
not a tax agent, not an accountant. But in a nutshell, you've got to think of that as that way. But you'll have more work-related expenses as a sole trader as opposed to an employee. But that's where like your deductions as an employee, if you bought a laptop or paying for education and things like that. But that's not me.
The only
question.
The only reason why I ask is because I feel like a lot of our customers, when they get to that threshold, there is a novelty about turning into a company because the tax rate is lower than that sole trader rate. So let's talk about the mess of moving into a company because that is a mess. It's hard.
It doesn't have to be. You need your accountant to help you register that entity. So essentially you need to think of it as an individual, like it's a person. It's its own beast of a thing. You'll have your business name, like a title, like a deed, a company deed, which just is like the general rules of the business. Shareholder or multiple if you've got buying in with others. The other thing that a lot of people don't understand, there's all this glory about being a company. You're taxed differently and you have to pay yourself a wage. So there's no great rush to become a company if you are in sole trader land unless you can actually afford to pay yourself your wage and your pay-as-you-go withholding and your superannuation, which that's just like it's a big step.
Yeah. Like you want to make sure that you've got all of that every single pay.
You've got enough cash coming in to pay that consistently.
Because I feel like if you're a sole trader, like before you move to that, like you could give yourself less or more, or depending on whatever happens. You can like move your funds around.
You can pull money out without any.
As a sole trader.
As a sole trader, you can.
So
just
like
pull money
I
out.
guess Yeah, like even though it's like, oh my God, I get to pay less if I'm this, but it's like you've got to look at everything else.
Yeah.
So
Like in the beginning, it's a little bit more. Yeah, sorry.
no, you go.
Because the other thing is too, like, the beauty to being a sole trader is if you need an extra 500 that week, you can
Take it out.
if it's there in the business.
Yeah.
If you're a company, you can't just take out of the company because then that turns into like a loan, not a loan like a bank, but it's money you owe the business and you have to repay that to the business within the financial year. Otherwise, you get taxed extra on it. So it's
Gotcha.
little things like it's not just a piggy bank.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, with sole trader, you and the business are one.
Yes.
And then with the company, you are working for that company now,
Think
although
of it-
you're the director. of it.
Although you're the director, think of it as you're employed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to transferring into a company, one of the main questions we get is, when do you know that you're ready?
No, when you can afford to do it.
One of my main answer is when your accountant tells you.
Yeah, when you're because there'll be a time where your income that you're making as a sole trader versus moving into that company structure, there's then benefits to being in that company structure. So again, having an accountant who you're meeting with maybe once every 3 or 6 months as a minimum, they'll be across it enough for
Yeah.
you to.
With a lot of our clients subcontract into their business instead of employ. You can subcontract as a sole trader.
Yes.
Yeah. So if they're looking to quote unquote hire as a subcontractor, they don't need to become a company.
No,
No.
you can hire as a subcontractor. Just be mindful of superannuation and subcontractors. As a company structure, you're required by law to pay superannuation. It's very much a case by case situation. So like if they bring their own equipment or if they're using your services or providing a skill, like there's so many elements to it. But yeah, that's something else to keep in mind. Like, but while you're starting out, like sole trader, subcontract for extra labor. It's much easier to just get rid of them when they're not performing, or if the work disappears, you're not then obligated to find work for this employee and keep everyone busy and things like that. So it's definitely a far more flexible way to grow your business and work out if you want to manage people, because that's the whole thing.
Oh, that's a whole
Absolutely.
other thing.
So our customers, they subcontract in, so they'll bring a coach on and they get paid per client. And that is how they'll bring someone into the team. So that can be done under sole trader.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then once you become a company, and I can attest to this, it was really difficult. So becoming a company, not only do you go through, do you need to have a lawyer?
Yeah, lawyer, legal team.
Normally your accountant will be attached to a legal team.
They'll
though.
have someone, 'cause they'll be doing different like trusts and companies and partnerships and all things every day of the week. So that's why a good accountant's handy, because they will have those resources available to draw up the deeds and things like that. Agreements, shareholder agreements.
There's loads of different structures coming into a company. It's not just company. It's like proprietary limited trust.
We trust this is probably
getting down a rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole, and it's probably a bit more than general chat.
Yeah.
Like then our general probably list.
Basically, it's not as easy as it. It's very complex.
So like you can have a trust that is a shareholder for a company.
We're going down a hole.
Yeah, it's a whole, and then like everyone's like, what's a trust?
Yeah.
So
transitioning into a company, if you do get to that point, there's lots of things that you probably won't think of that actually happen. So first of all is you can't actually use the same bank account.
No, you got to get a new bank account, new EOFY, and then like just
Stripe.
Yes, because Stripe's like a bank account. You've got to think of Stripe as a bank account.
Yep.
And that's linked to that ABN. So you'll get a new ABN, you get an ACN, which is an Australian company number. You have to take your deed and evidence that you are a shareholder into the bank, open all new bank accounts, put signatories on accounts, things like that. And you essentially starting from not scratch in terms of the business sense, but in the financial world, you start over. So
it's like if you're looking into it just to pay less tax, maybe think about it.
Yeah, because I mean, you can pay anywhere sort of like $3,000 to $5,000 to the accountant to set that structure up for you. It's there's a lot of work and a lot goes on behind the scenes for it too, like all the registrations and fees, and like you've got to pay ASIC fees, and you pay them anyway, but more.
And this is the kind of money that you want to pay, because this is just
you want it done properly.
You really do. I remember going through it with you. God, I was so stressed. I was crying all the time. I was like, what do I do? So when it comes to opening up a new business bank, can you transfer all the funds from the sole trader into the business account?
So that can be like the shareholders' contribution into the business or this existing asset kind of thing. So that you're not starting completely from scratch. Like your systems are still there, your clients are still there, your entity has just changed.
Yep.
So your business name might have proprietary limited on the end or as trustee for something obnoxiously wild.
So coming back to coaches, so say they have subscriptions set up on Stripe as a sole trader, and then they need to set up a new Stripe as a business. Do they need to move all their clients over? Yeah. Wow, that's a lot.
And then like any subscriptions you might have direct debited from your business, you've got to move them all from your business account. And sometimes like direct debit's fine, but if you're applying for a finance or a loan, a lot of the time you've got to have been trading for 12 months before anyone will look at you. So that's another thing.
Like, they completely wipe the sole trader, don't they?
No, they don't wipe them, but when you move into a company, if that company, like say you want a business loan, you need to have been trading for
as that
business
company,
as that company for at least 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of things to think about in terms of where you want to take your business, how soon you want to do any big things like signing a lease on a property. Like you can't just be born essentially as a company and then go to the bank and get money because they're like, you don't know.
you only just were born. You don't exist yet.
Yeah, we need evidence
we
that you
need
make
proof
money.
that you are going to pay us back.
I think one of the benefits I find with being a company, well, obviously we need to be, but one of the benefits I find is I don't need to think about super.
It just happens.
You need to have payroll.
Yes,
and you need to pay
get
yourself.
paid on your payroll, so you get super through the business.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
cool. So it's a really complex world, basically. And we do get a lot of these questions around what should I be, what should I do, and it's not something we can tell you.
No. Your own accountant is the only person who can tell you. Like all of this advice on here, like today, is just general. It's just information. Take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. But for you and your business and where you want to go and what you want to do, have a good accountant that you can chat with and find just because you've found an accountant also, they might not be the right one for you. You can chop and change. You're not locked in. Yeah.
And it's not awkward, guys. I know that coaches can be very avoidant of this. You don't need to do anything. Your accountant does it.
Your accountant will tell your accountant.
So I
had a breakup letter.
I had an accountant and we just weren't satisfied with the service. And Sophie had introduced me to Gemma and I was like shitting my pants. I was like, I can't tell him that I'm leaving. And Gemma's like, I do it. She just called and was like, give me the files.
I love that.
So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to have that
finding
combo.
someone that understands what you do. I mean, a lot of the time I have a heap of creatives and a lot of accountants are like, what do you mean you don't take payment in full up front? It's like 50% deposit or just different things. So different accountants have different strengths. There's a multitude of facets to accounting. So there's like compliance and tax and
it's just like how some coaches are nutrition only, some are both, some are just training. Like they would have their strengths in different areas.
One size fits all in accounting. You might find like a small accountant who's brilliant for you, or like a big firm. Maybe you want some anonymity and you don't care who you talk to, but you kind of have someone across your file at all times. So and don't feel like, I've got to like breaking up with like a hairdresser or something.
Honestly, take time to find a good accountant. Like I don't know what I'll do without Gemma.
She calms your nerves.
Honestly, she does, and I really attest you and Gem for the growth that I've had. Because you just keep it together. Like, if I'm having a meltdown, you guys are like, no, it's okay. Like, we'll bring it back.
If you need to have a meltdown, we will let you know you need to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
And that's why having that relationship to be like, hey, should I or can I, is this a good idea? Buy this, invest that, do these things. And it might be like, oh, no, maybe not yet. Or if you want to, these are the figures you have to start pulling in to make that work. All of those things.
Is that more of like your consulting side rather than like a general accountant would be able to do? Or is that something? Okay.
Yeah. Can help you with that. So they'll be like, hey, I want to pay myself more. So it's okay, what does that look like for the business? And then they can calc that out for you and be like, okay, well, you need to double your revenue or something like that.
Hit these targets.
Good to have someone to chat with who gets it.
And I think just across the board, a lot of our listeners and customers are so anxious about funds. And I truly believe it is because you avoid it so much.
A lot of
And
people
it's
do.
in business, it is really scary, especially in the early stages when you, like year 1 to 3, if you make a loss 1 month, you can spiral. Whereas if I'm spiraling and I email you, you're like, it's fine. Like next month will be fine. Like,
yeah, you think of it as a whole year.
yeah.
And you will run at losses. Like there will be times where clients just drop off. You might be thinking, I'm in a really good place. That's one of the things of just being a small business owner, the uncertainty of, are they going to stay with me forever? Am I going to make this, like, how far can I plan? Or if they all leave en masse, like if you have a massive client drop, let's look into it. What happened? Why? Yeah, it's good to have
support structure for sure. One of the questions we get a lot, and one of the things I'm always bragging about, is how do I know how much money to put away for
things.
super tax, things like that. And I always brag. I'm like, Sophie sends me an email.
Sophie runs a reporting survey that tells Sophie how much to put aside.
So for context, for people that are listening, every month, maybe by the 15th of next month, Sophie will send me a report and be like, this is what we made last month. This is how much you put away. I put it away and then I never worry about it because it's done.
It's done. It's there ready for when you have to pay super.
Yeah.
So superannuation. So this is when you're a company or you've got employees on payroll. So even as a sole trader, you can still have employees on payroll. Just you as the owner doesn't have to be on payroll, whereas as a company, the owner do have to be on payroll. Just putting aside your pay-as-you-go withholding. So that's when you get paid, for example, or the staff get paid, you see their gross payment less their tax. Pay-as-you-go withholding is that tax. Put that in.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was like, what is this thing?
Pay-as-you-go withholding. So that's the tax that the employees are paying.
Yeah.
You're required to.
Because that's how it comes up on my statement is like,
Yeah.
pay as you go. And I know that that's what I'm paying.
I don't look at my pay slips.
And then you're required to pay that to the ATO on their behalf. And then there's the super.
Always wondered what that was. I was like,
okay.
what is this? Because I know there's paid WG, which is like
PAYG.
That's pay as you go.
No, there's 2 different ones.
There's pay as you go. There's installments if you're a sole trader. So that's an IAS, like an installment activity statement. And then there's pay as you go withholding. So that's PAYGW.
Oh.
And that's another thing a lot of people might not know, and I want to touch on. We will get into the questions really quickly. But when you hire someone for like $70,000, how much does it actually cost someone to hire for $70,000?
Well, you need to add 11% on top of that for super.
Yep.
So you're straight at like 700. So that's straight up. Your insurances will increase. Your expenses will probably increase. You'll have additional subscriptions, catering, events, uniform if you're supplying uniforms, more power in the business because there's another person there. Your workers' comp insurance, all of those kind of things, depending on how much the expenses are that they use and how many subscriptions you're running. It could cost you $90,000.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's not just black and white.
no, it's not like, oh, they cost me 70 grand. No, and your time then too in training, or HR if you need like disciplinary issues or retraining or mediation or just the headache that they can be sometimes. And I saw one of the questions was how much does someone need to earn to take home $75,000?
Yeah.
I did some calcs. About 100 grand salary to walk away with around 75 after tax, provided you don't have a HECS debt.
Yeah.
Like that's just the most straightforward example. So
it's just a whole new world. Hey,
it's
such a rabbit hole. And it's really hard to answer like everything in one go.
Oh, in one go. And like we can talk about this for days.
Yeah.
So just bore everyone to sleep.
Yeah, I want to be mindful that a lot of our listeners will be sole traders. Let's go into like the basics again. And obviously, if you want to hear more about companies, book a call with Soph and have a bit of a chat. We'll put Sophie's contact details in the Spotify, and we'll also put our accountant details down there as well.
Like, let Gemma know first.
Yeah. You may get an influx.
But it's definitely super important. So let's go back to something that you taught me, the golden rule. What is the golden rule?
Got a few golden rules now.
Yep.
What one did I tell you?
You told me 70-30
In terms of
income.
spending and
Yep. So when you're on your own, you don't have the resources to have all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. 70% income.
Yep.
30% expenses.
Yep.
To do it that way. Think of it like that. If I make $7, I spend $3 on subscriptions and that way.
So basically, would you say, like, say if someone got paid $1,000 a week, you'd put 300 away from that
As savings, yeah.
Yeah.
To
And
keep the
what,
business.
does that include your super? If you want to pay super,
If you want to pay super, it can.
Yep.
It's really up to you. I mean, super is one aspect of saving for your future. There's a million other ways so you can invest money and plan for your future. But 300 put aside just to help cover the day-to-day runnings. And then a lot of, like, when we get into end of year prep, like what you need to have organized for your accountant, it's a really good time to sit down and look at your costs. Like, what are you spending on subscriptions? What are your fees? What are your charges? Where are there any like subscriptions you've forgotten that you've got and they're just kind of ticking away in the background? You're not using them. Could you scale a package, not package you sell, but like a subscription package you're paying for? Can you scale it up or down?
yeah.
All those kind of things just to help reduce. Always being mindful of what you're spending and always think to yourself, is this a business expense?
Yes,
You're gonna
that's
tap
a
that
big
card.
one.
Is it a business expense? Because I see everything, and some people try some really creative things, and I'm like, that's not for work.
Let's get into business expenses because in the fitness world,
That's a hot topic.
yeah, it is a really hot topic. And look, in fitness, there's certain things that you can do, such as competing, that you can capitalize on in order to grow your brand and to get eyes on your social media, which is a really great business strategy.
Yeah.
But there are guidelines when it comes to expenses.
Expenses on those. So, like, whatever you're wearing for the comp isn't necessarily a business expense because it can be used personally too. Nutrition, like sups, protein, that is a personal expense. As much as you're using it in relation to work, you are benefiting from it personally. It's not for the business. Same with like if you're paying a nutritionist or
With
PT.
I do have a question on that.
Yeah.
Say you have like a ambassadorship with a supplement company and you have to buy the supplements
From them.
Would that be a business expense?
Are you getting income?
Yes. Like if you sell that product, you'll get a bit of income.
Income from that. See, this is like case by case situation. So sometimes potentially, but then other times absolutely not.
So I guess it just depends on what the deal is with the company that you would need
If in doubt, keep the receipts and put it through the business. And worst case, it gets marked as personal income.
Okay.
Rather than you paying like Joe Blogg's protein or whatever. I hope that's not a real business. I'm not plugging anyone. It would get marked as money that you've paid yourself. So like that's fine when it's all like sole trader land. Yeah.
What about activewear if they're a face-to-face PT?
Unless it's a uniform. So if it's branded, like if you've had it embroidered to say like your business name, same with your shirts, then that is classified as a uniform. Because ideally you're not going to wear that outside of work. If it's just plain activewear that you've just spent a fortune online and just treated yourself, that's not likely a business expense because it's not specifically for work. You can use it outside of work. Same with shoes and things like that. It's like they're not work boots. You don't need them for work.
Yeah.
It's just an option that then becomes like a personal expense.
What about photo shoots?
Can be advertising.
Yeah. Beautiful. Like branding shoots.
Branding shoots. Yeah. Content advertising for work. Like it's imagery for your business to advertise your business. Yeah. That comes under marketing.
Like you are your business.
Yeah.
So it would be the same as shooting your product. You are your product.
Yeah.
So
So that's marketing and advertising. Yeah.
And again, we're asking a lot of questions, but ask your accountant.
Yeah.
They will tell you.
Like direct to you. And I mean, all accountants are different. Some might be more relaxed than others.
Yeah.
They all have rules to follow for obvious reasons. And also the ATO website has a ton of information. So if ever you're not sure, just jump on. There's an app too you can put questions into. They have smart bots to answer questions, and they will change what is deemable as a business-related expense every year. So the other thing, working from home, you now need to keep a logbook of the time spent working from home to claim those relative.
So you can't pay your full internet bill.
You can if you like whole thing.
Yeah.
If it's from home. Like if you're solely working from home, but we still need to know like how many hours a day you are working. So then that percentage of the day is essentially the internet, power, all of those things.
Yeah. If you're working the same hours every single day from home always.
You can just total that.
Right. I was just saying, surely you don't need to clock it. Like
no, it's more like
I was like 30 minutes.
7-minute increments, please. No. It's not a law firm. So like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Straight up, that kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. This has been really interesting to talk about, but I do want to get into a bit of fun stuff. So as I know that you've worked with a lot of creatives and coaches.
Yeah.
What's the number one mistake that you see and recommend against?
Definitely thinking you've got more money than you do.
I've done that.
And it's easy. It's an easy mistake to make. Like you've got sales coming in and it feels good. Like when you've got sales coming in, you think, yeah, I'm like making all this money. And I have quite a few who are like, oh, I really want to buy like X brand designer handbag. I'm like, A, that's not a business expense. B, I get it, but not yet. Like it's always, you don't want to be a pessimist about it, but it's better to err on the side of caution with, exactly what you're spending, how much you're actually making, and what capacity you have to grow and how much potential income you can make. And that's where, like, with my consulting side of things, we can chat about how to pivot and add on income streams that aren't necessarily more physical work for you. Like you don't have to actually do the work. It just idles in the background. But thinking you got more money than you have, or just being completely blasé about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I think it's hard though. Like I think something that people would struggle with, like we really don't get taught enough of this, like through schools or anything. So like
at school,
that's why when people are like, oh, like if they feel bad that they don't know anything, it's like, no, we genuinely didn't get taught any of this. Like unless you did like IT or the business or whatever classes.
I did business at high school. It wasn't any.
I did a business diploma and nothing was in that.
No, so like real life application is so different to the theory of all of that stuff. And choosing ignorance, like that's the biggest killer of small business. It's like, it'll be fine. I'll just keep going. And not taking responsibility of actions that have then been a detrimental outcome to your business. So that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to applications. We get lots of questions around what to use. So I'm a diehard Xero fan. I just love it. I think it's just the best thing ever because like you can just find anything you want to find. And like Gemma set up custom reports for me for particular things I want to see, which is really great. But that's off topic. There is another app called Henry, and I see the ads on TikTok all the time. It's so annoying. But what is Henry?
Henry is an app for sole traders. Right. So if it's just you running your own business, like might be Joe Blogs painting. Joe Blogs is getting a lot of plugs today.
Good on you, Joe Blogs. You got painting, you got subs. Killing it.
So if it's just you don't have any employees and you've got like one primary income source or one activity that you're really doing to generate income, perfect. It collects your tax for you. It breaks it all down. You can do your invoices from it, receive your income. Like it's like a friendly sole trader version of Xero. A little less reporting options and things like that. But in terms of hitting the ground running, that's a great place to start.
Is it cheaper?
I don't know what the fees are.
Sounds like a really good option. I've seen a lot about it online and how it can really just help you.
Just helps.
Yeah.
Like just the transparency. The more you know about what's going on in your business, the better, easier it is for you to make good decisions.
I think though sometimes the apps can scare people because they're like, I don't want to put my details into it as well though. Like they're going to be able to read everything. What can they read? What they can't read? But like I'm assuming that apps that are like this, they've got a lot of rules and regulations.
There are a lot of security features and like two-factor authentication, things like that. It's all very safe and secure. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be allowed to exist in Australia.
Yeah.
There's another one I've partnered with, which is Retriever. For once you're kind of in GST land, it automatically collects your GST and pays it to the ATO.
That's
so
cool.
It's done.
Yeah.
Like you don't notice it. Like it kind of happens just in the background. So when you get to tax time, you've kind of prepaid that part of your
that's good
tax bill as opposed to saving, which I mean, if depending on what your cash flow is like, if you want to save that money so it's there, that's where the tax account's handy. But yeah, there's so many apps now that just make life heaps less
I like
stressful.
Retriever because I have a golden retriever.
Yeah, so the owner of Retriever himself. Retriever.
How collecting receipts? How do you?
Xero. You can just take a photo and send them straight to Xero. Like I love Xero.
Yeah, so you get your own email with Xero.
Yeah, to your bills section in Xero. So you literally just photos, send them through, and then when the payment comes out of the account, once you've approved the bill, you can attach that payment to that transaction. Because the other thing is too with the ATO, if you don't have a receipt, too bad, so sad. I'm sorry, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
So you've got to have evidence, and you have to keep evidence for 7 years. So making it electronic alleviates having to keep paper.
Yeah,
because it's all there.
Stack up.
There are other apps like Receipt.
I know my partner uses OneDrive. He uploads it.
Yeah, you can
via
put them in OneDrive or like Google Drive. You can have. There's a files section in Xero too. I mean, it's better to have it in bills, but just anything work related, you can just save electronically. Just have it stored somewhere.
Yeah,
there's apps, Expensify and different things like that. Whatever.
So I guess do your research.
Top recommendations is Xero, Henry, and Retriever.
Yeah,
Henry for sole trader, Retriever for
when you're a company collecting GST.
Yeah.
Or just as a sole trader when
collecting GST land. Retriever. Yeah.
Just
Xero, guys. Yes, Xero is so good, and they got 6 months off at the moment. There's a plug.
Yeah,
depending on when you listen to this podcast.
They're so good. I like as a company we pay $70 a month. So I think I paid $27 a month as a sole trader.
It goes up every year, but at certain thresholds. So some will be you get to do like 5 invoices a month. If you're not invoicing, then you don't really need to worry about invoices. So the basic package is great. If you do a fair few invoices, like more than 5, then standard the next package up, and then it includes 2 people for payroll. But then if you start putting on more employees, there's like little tiers that they then push you up into the next package, depending on like how many staff and sort of what's happening in your business. But just the reporting aspect and the transparency, like the cash flow chart on the dashboard and
so good.
All of those things.
When you say cash flow, what do you mean?
Money moving through the business. So like Xero, for example, they have a little bar graph at the bottom which shows you how much money has come in and how much money has gone out.
And with cash flow, like it's the cash sitting in your business or just like
moving through, like what am I making in sales and what am I spending?
Right.
Am I spending more than I'm making? Red flag.
Just gives you like a little recap on your dashboard.
At a glance, just something quick to be like, oh, wait, why did I spend so much? Or I haven't had payments come through.
So it doesn't have anything to do with your revenue.
Yeah, revenues, sales in.
Yeah. So we're coming into the end of financial year, which this episode will be posted like 2 weeks before end of financial year, which is perfect timing. So we find that it's pretty stressful coming into end of financial year.
There's always a big panic.
Yeah. So
my panic has started already with
what would you do if you were a coach?
If I were a coach, I'd just be making sure I've got all my receipts in order, like whether you just get like a plastic folder or a small filing book, collect all of those, dig them out of the car, dig them out of the spare bag, wherever you put them in the house, get those together, look at your bank account, just see, okay, how much, like what have I made, or your spreadsheet or your Xero file, what have my sales been this year, what have my expenses been. You can kind of have a little look before you go and chat with the accountant. Review your subscriptions and your insurances. they like utilize a broker for your insurances to like make sure you're getting the best deal so you can save money where possible. Look at the subscriptions to see what you're paying for. Are they relevant? Do I need them? Am I wasting money? What have been my big expenses this year? Maybe someone spent an absolute huge bomb on marketing, getting photo shoots and all of that done for their business, and has that made a return on investment? Like, have I grown? What have I done last year in sales? Have I improved? Or
so like going back to look on those things in prep for end of financial year, is it just looking back on it to see like would it be worthwhile doing it next year? Is that why you're looking
a
back
little
on
bit
it?
and just be like, am I on the right track?
Right.
Like what from this can I ask my accountant, should I become a company?
Right.
Or have I done something wrong?
Right. Okay.
Or what could I be doing better? Is my cash flow okay? Or when is there a lull? And then you know in yourself, okay, well, I'll plan for marketing prior to this because there's a bit of a pattern, like
Before the lull
identifying
happens.
patterns
Yeah.
in your
Okay.
business, just so you can better prepare for next year. Reviewing your expenses, collecting your receipts, just putting together some questions for the accountant that you want to know, or things you're like, can I buy a car? Or because that always seems to be a question. Everyone's like, can I get a new car? And you're like, no. Or yes, okay, you can, but you only can spend this much. All of those kind of things. Or how much did you pay in subcontractors? Is it time to get a staff member? All of those little things. The health of your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And ask them those questions.
How far in advance before, if you don't already have an accountant, how far before like
Tax time.
how far before tax time should you actually get one? Like
I'd start looking now.
Yeah.
Like just have a meeting, have a coffee, see if you like them, because that is a big part. Like sharing your personal finances with anyone is always daunting, so you want to at least feel comfortable with them. I'd start now. Like you can chop and change anytime. They might be like, oh, you've got extra work to do to get ready for the end of financial year. And then you've got time to do that just so you can, if you want to do your tax in July, you can. You do have until May.
Yeah.
You don't need to do your tax straight away.
No, not immediately.
Yeah.
Unless you're really hanging for a refund if you think you're getting a refund.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And be prepared, even though you think you're
also-
getting a refund, you might not be getting a
And if
refund.
you're getting a bill, like it's not due until the following May. So that gives you time to plan or pay it off or get a payment plan.
But I guess having it done sooner, like if you do have a bill, then you can already put plans in place to not get a bill next
and it
year or
just-
like a lesser bill. I guess.
having sort of meeting with them sooner rather than later just gives you better clarity on the business.
Yeah.
And to help plan better.
What if you're a sole trader who has just ignored it and hasn't touched it for years?
Seek help immediately. You're never too late to learn, and it is good to just get up to speed on it all. It's people feel sick about looking at their finances. Especially the longer you leave it, the harder it is to look at. It might be upsetting. You might think you're doing great and you're not, or you might think you're doing crap and you're actually doing really great.
Which I guess either way is better to learn sooner rather than later, no matter
then
what.
you can do something about it rather than just ignoring it and idling away and not getting anywhere. Because the longer you leave it not knowing, and then you decide I want to get finance for a car. It's like, well, I need the bank or the car finance place will ask for finance documents about your business, about you. If you don't have them,
it's not happening.
no. Yeah.
You know, the best tip that I ever got was from Ruby Marsh.
Oh, yeah.
And it's when you're anxious around your finances, look at your bank account every single day. As a coach, you tell your clients to check your scale weight every single day because it doesn't move. But the more you look at it,
the less
you're like,
daunting it
okay,
becomes.
like it's fine.
Yeah.
Because I've heard something once before that was like everybody has a different money story.
Everyone
and it's
does.
like it depends on how you got brought up, what finances were like. Were they an open conversation? Were they like taboo to talk about? And like so you can have this idea in your head about like, oh no, I'm not meant to tell anyone about what money I make.
I
And
think a level of privacy around money is always good.
oh yeah. Yeah. You're not just gonna
having your account that you can go and have those really good conversations with.
it doesn't have to be as scary as you think it is.
No.
Yeah.
And don't be embarrassed.
That's
the other
why
thing.
accountants
a lot
exist.
Of a
Like-
lot of people are so fearful that, oh, my business is doing terrible. I don't want to tell anyone about it. I'm just going to keep ignoring it. It might not be that terrible. Or if it is, there's things you can do about it. Like it's not just, we don't have to just ignore it and let it rot.
I'm just having flashbacks because this is me.
It's a lot of people. It's not just you. Don't feel privileged.
These aren't
to this
tailored
so
to
much.
you.
It's very general.
It's like, no, if you think we're talking about you, we are. No, I'm just kidding.
no.
I'm joking.
It's just so normal. I can relate to what you just said so
Ash
much.
just default stress mode. Like, you default. I'm like, why are you crying?
Now I'm relating.
No, just
You're fine.
I just relate to
I'll
it
tell
so
you when
much.
you have to worry.
Yeah. And that's the best part. Like, if you told me to worry, then I would worry.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like,
And before I tell you to worry, I will tell you to do things. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey.
You're not just going to be like, oh, red flag. Like,
Yeah.
we're
like,
done.
you can see it coming before it happens.
Well, I guess a good accountant or a bookkeeper would see it coming. So
Yeah,
get a
someone
good
who's
bookkeeper
across
and
it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a support. Like, you can't do it all yourself. Like,
Being a sole trader, like having somebody else to also support you in your business and know what's going on would be
Yeah.
so helpful to have that person to talk to, because you can talk to other people who are a sole trader but their business is completely different
completely
to yours. So
different.
having
And
that
they're-
person in your corner,
depending on where they're at in their journey too, like they might
Yeah.
have been doing it for 6 years. So
Yeah.
they're seasoned.
It's
they
incomparable.
ride the wave, whereas this is your first lull.
yeah.
yeah.
You're panicking about trying to onboard more clients and things like that and being reactive, whereas they're like, hey, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You're bound to make mistakes. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone's making it up as they go.
Everyone. Goodness.
No one, like even like really big high end, like there's always this unwavering fear like that they're not doing enough, or it could be more, or always, but just do what you can do. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got to wrap it up here,
Yeah,
but thank you so much, Soph, for coming on the podcast.
That's okay. Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
That's okay. As mentioned, Soph is just a lifesaver when it comes to everything business. She has been a big pivotal person when it comes to our business
Sounding
growth.
board.
And pardon?
And a sounding
Oh,
board.
massive soundboard, good friend, just really good built relationship. And it really does go to show that I reached out to Soph when I was a sole trader and we've grown together. So thank you so much for coming on. I know that our listeners are going to absolutely love this. I know Kira probably learnt some things.
Definitely learned a few things. I'm probably never going to have to use it just being an employee, but I like having knowledge.
It's still good to know. It's always good to know.
When I hear people talking about things, I'd be like, I know what that means.
I
Instead of just going,
oh. But if you do need any kind of bookkeeping or consulting, please make sure to reach out to Soph. She's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Understands our industry extremely well.
I have quite a few things to you.
Yeah, we
Quite a
just
few
we just tell all our
PTs,
clients, go Sophie. Thank you so much. And where can our listeners find you?
Oh, mostly online via my website, the world's worst business name, but sbbusinessservices.com or my Instagram.
Beautiful. We'll link both of them in the Spotify.
Yeah, mostly
and,
on Insta. Yeah.
yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
How do I wrap up the episode?
Bye.
Bye.